It's time to talk some trash on the mainstream media. I got my notes here, so let's get started. If you want to just listen to this like a podcast, there's not going to be a whole lot to actually watch. So feel free to just slide me in your pocket or set me on the side table and just have a listen. So let's face it, mainstream media is in its death throes. And honestly, it's about damn time. People just don't trust them anymore, and they shouldn't. They've kind of earned that reputation. All these outlets, and it doesn't matter, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, it really doesn't matter. They've spent decades, lying to us, spinning the truth, and absolutely, kissing the asses of all the corporate overlords that are, actually running things here. And now Americans are ditching all these networks for something that's real. And this is kind of what I've referred to as the influencer media. We're talking like Joe Rogan, Philip DeFranco, the Sean Ryan show. And there's a reason for that. These are the voices that people are actually trusting now. Because, unlike the mainstream media, they don't have corporate agenda. Well, most of them don't have corporate agenda shoved so far up their ass that they can't even see the truth anymore. Because when it comes down to it, this isn't just, bad journalism. It's control, right? Because the media can't control what you think, but they can control what you think about. Mainstream media has always been just a tool for the establishment. They've sold us on wars, and they spent time protecting all these elites and silencing anybody that tends to disagree with anything they've got going on. Just think back to Iraq. Did we ever find all those weapons of mass destruction? No, we never did. Was there any accountability to the ones who swore that that's the reason why we needed to spend 20 freaking years at war? No. But the media shoved that down our throats. What about the pandemic? The reporting that they did on that, or, the lack thereof. Do you remember when they had the live death counter on the screen? When it was really impressive at first, and you get to thinking about it, and there's no way that they would have that live information. And it wasn't just, the left people. It was Fox was doing it, Newsmax. They were all doing it. And it's just more proof that, they may season the meat differently, but the meat comes from the same bird. And the left and the right wing both belong to that same shitty bird. You guys are going to have to listen to my dogs running around. There's nothing I can do about it. But anyway, all these outlets, media outlets, they claim objectivity, right? That's the big thing that they advertise, and that's their selling point. But let's talk about that. I mean, who's paying their bills. It's not you and me. It's the advertisers, right? It's these giant corporations and fucking Pfizer with big pharma. If Pfizer is writing you a check for over $1 billion, are you going to bite that hand? Are you going to run the risk of them pulling their $1 billion payments? When was the last time you saw a drug on TV and, as an ad, and went and talked to your doctor and said you needed this thing, even though it causes anal leakage and your freaking brain rot and all this other stuff? Nobody does that. But the thing is, if you're spending that kind of money, it gives you the ability to control what those media companies are telling you. Like I've said in the past, they can't tell you what to think. They can't control what you think, but they do control what you think about. Are they gonna tolerate Fox or CNN talking about alternative treatments? Or are they gonna tolerate them discussing breaking news about side effects? No, they're not. They're not reporting the news. They're just selling what the information that the highest bidder wants you and I to hear. That's it, nothing else. But there's a little bit of good news behind all this. And that's, people like you and me, the average person, they've finally figured out that it's time to wake the hell up. all this agenda that's been pushed down everybody's throats for the last 4 years, well, that election alone, when Donald Trump got elected, and the Senate election, and the election with the House, that's a pretty big shift. And it was the independent media that caused that whole thing, independent people. So people are waking up. They're completely tuning out cable news, and they're turning to, the Sean Ryans, the Joe Rogans. What's that other one? The call my daddy, or call me daddy, or, some bullshit like that. They're not watching The View. They're not listening to Whoopi. They're turning to people like you and I. Not that I'm real big in that, but that's who they're turning to now. And there's no reason why you can't turn this phone around and do it yourself. And we all know the reason why. These podcasters, like Sean Ryan's show, they're talking about the stuff that we want and need to hear. Stuff the mainstream media won't even touch. All these whistleblowers, veterans, these insiders, these people who actually know the inside of how these industrial complexes work. No scripts, no check from Pfizer, nothing like that. No corporate bullshit, just raw, unfiltered truth. And you can be surprised how much you can learn about somebody during a podcast like that. It's amazing the amount of information you can find out about how the system works. And the whole influencer, podcaster, YouTube, TikToker, rush is taking over everything. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. I mean, compare all that to the, trash that you see on CNN and Fox. People want something real. They're tired of every segment feeling like it's been focus grouped to death and pre-washed and pre-approved. They're just that it feels sleazy every time you watch that stuff now. They want conversations that feel, like they've got some authenticity. Have you noticed how the Megyn Kelly show and Tucker Carlson really don't mind dropping the fuck word now and then? And that's real, that's authentic, and that's what people want to hear. There's a reason why Joe Rogan can hold an audience on a friggin' boring subject for 3 hours, and all they can manage is a 30-second soundbite on cable news networks. The crazy thing about all this is the mainstream media knows that they're losing. They're freaking terrified, man. Every time some independent, dude like Joe Rogan or Sean Ryan, and I hate to keep bringing those two up, but they're popular. Every time one of them questions the mainstream narrative, they fucking lose their shit. They being the establishment, right? And then they try to discredit them, and they launch some smear campaign and let's cancel everybody. And it's just not working, man. It just makes these independent guys more and more popular. People just aren't buying into all that bullshit anymore. This is kind of cool because what it is it's really a media revolution. And I think revolution is about the best term I can apply to that. The old system, it chose its path and it's dying because of it. They lied, manipulated, and now they're paying that price. And you know what? I'm kind of glad to see that. The future media is going to be independent. It's going to be decentralized, and it's working its way toward that right now. I mean, the amount of trust that you get from your favorite podcaster versus, I think I read a statistic where it's less than 24% of people trust what comes out of the mainstream. That speaks for itself. There's something to be said about the person reporting to you about what's going on in the world when they actually give a damn about you. Give a damn about the truth. Even if they're wrong, it's what they truly feel is right. And that's what people want. We don't mind somebody missing something. But whenever they do miss and they come back and say, look, guys, I fucked that up. I need to make a correction. Man, that means more than anything. And, just not being strangled in prison by, all of these, the medical industrial complex, the military industrial complex, advertisers, political parties, shareholders, all this stuff. It truly does make a huge difference. So if you've made it this far, I'm curious, who are you trusting for your news? I really like for news, the Wright Report, WRIGHT, and S2 Underground. You catch a lot of, important news from places like, Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan. Really kind of catches you up. Those two can catch you up on the inside workings of things. And for lifestyle design, stuff like the Survival Podcast with Jack Spirko. Morning Brew Daily is it's a podcast I'll listen to every morning. And they were a newsletter that launched into a business news podcast. They have left leanings that I don't always agree with, but they truly feel like what they're reporting is right. And they've been known to admit it when they've screwed something up. All these big media conglomerates, they've been lying to us over and over. And the independents are willing to ask these hard questions that none of those people will. Kind of goes back to who signs the check, Is it a Patreon or a Substack subscriber base? Or is it Pfizer? That makes a difference on the information that you are going to hear. YouTube may cancel you and delete your channel. But if you can go and develop a website, start mirroring content to Patreon and mirror it to Substack or other subscription services, you can't be silenced. And that's what makes it so powerful. Having a YouTube channel, then also throw it up on a podcast, iTunes, Spotify, self-hosted RSS feeds. I think by now the answer is pretty clear on what my thoughts are. The mainstream media's time is up. It was good while it lasted, but we're done. It's time to get the hell out of here. Future belongs to really the people the independents. And let me know if you agree. All right, guys, until next time, y'all be safe. I used to look at subscription services for, influencers, podcasters, and YouTubers and stuff. And I always thought that was stupid. But here, within the last few years, I found myself actually paying real fiat money, for Patreons and subscriptions. And it's because I want to support those guys. And keep in mind, as long as they're funding what they're doing through the subscription service paid for by their viewers, their followers, that keeps the check being signed by the people that are, you and I, the public. And that's who they're going to serve.